I'm gonna tell you the 5 biggest mistakes you can make at a product manager interview and how to avoid them. What is going on, everybody? My name is Alex. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here, you wanna learn about product management, finance, business, startups, and how to get into the top tech companies, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. I've interviewed hundreds of product manager candidates over the years, and there's a few mistakes that I see repeated time and time again. Let's go over them right now. The first mistake that happens the most often is a lack of structure. I will ask a question and the candidate will just go right into the answer. Whether or not they understood the question, whether or not it's the right answer, whether or not they clarified all the details and they made sure that they're exploring in the areas that I actually wanted them to, they just dive right into the answer. So the first mistake is answering right away. Take a moment to understand what you just heard. So take a moment. Don't answer right away. Think. However you process information, take a moment to understand what happened. The next thing is present your structure. Don't just answer first this, then I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna cover that, and oh, by the way, I just thought of this. No, create your structure. Explain to me and to the interviewer how you're gonna answer the question before you actually answer the question. During presentations, you might have heard that at first tell them what you're gonna say, then say the thing, then tell them what you just said. You want to use a similar approach when answering interview questions as well. Before you answer, think about it and then create the structure of how you're going to answer it. So tell me what the answer is going to look like, then answer it, and then outline what you just said. So recap everything for me. This is probably the biggest mistake. And when you've heard it time and time again, it's very easy to spot. It's very easy to give negative points, negative remarks to a candidate that does this. The second mistake that I see happen all the time is when a candidate lets the interviewer control the entire conversation. You always ask for instructions. You ask for permission to go into discuss a particular topic, or permission to answer a question a particular way, as opposed to leading the interviewer, or at least working on the interview together. A good, successful, positive interview experience is when two people actually have an interesting, meaningful discussion where both parties are engaged, both parties are learning something new, and basically having a good time. If you can treat an interview like that, like you're basically having an interesting intellectual discussion with somebody else, talking about a field that you enjoy, then you're gonna have the best chances at success during this interview. So make sure you lead the conversation and not just follow. Make sure, instead of asking for clarification, can I do this? Do you mind if I do it like that? Or do you mind if I take a minute here? Just say, I'm going to answer this way, or I'm going to explore this part because I think it's the most pertinent, or I'm going to take a moment to think about it. Lead as opposed to follow. Now, again, we're talking about product management. I understand that not all interviews are going to be like this, but for product management, usually people want a leader, someone who can execute in the face of ambiguity, and someone who can actually lead others around them and inspire others around them. And most of the time, product managers don't exactly know what to do, what the right thing to do is in any given situation. And so during the interview, you really want to be able to take charge of that situation. Whenever there's an opportunity for you to explore, choose a particular direction, just choose that direction and then tell the interviewer that that's what you're going to do and that's where you're going to go. Definitely check in with the interviewer every now and then to make sure that you're going on the right path, but it should be less frequent. Every now and then you can say, by the way, are we covering the topics that you wanted to cover, or are there any other points that you want me to address? The third biggest mistake I see people make during interviews is not being creative or innovative enough. That means that they frequently just take the most obvious solution, the same solution that I've heard. A lot of the times the interviewers will be asking the same question to many candidates over and over and over again over weeks and months. So imagine what happens if you answer the exact same way as 10 candidates did before you. Sometimes that's okay because some situations there are only specific ways you can answer, but most of the time try to look beyond the obvious insight. I know it's hard, but try to remember this. This is important because this is exactly how you stand out. Because if the previous 10 candidates answered it the same way and you were about to answer it the same way, but then you thought, wait, everybody probably says this, so why don't I go a little bit deeper? What else can I do here? How else can I turn the situation around? I have other videos also talking about different stages of the interview process, whether you're making your resume right there, or you're at a different stage in your interview process. Make sure to check out other videos. I'm hoping it might be helpful to you. The fourth point is not focusing on the user enough, focusing too much on the business aspect, on the financial aspect of it, the revenue, as opposed to the user satisfaction, user experience, user problems, user journey, etc. Be very focused on the user. This is especially important for top tech. Facebook, Amazon, and Google, and all the top tech companies have an obsession with user. I know it may not seem like that always when you're looking looking at the product. But when you're operating at that scale, the most important thing is the user relationship, and the most important thing is user satisfaction, user happiness, understanding exactly what the problem is, understanding exactly what the user experience is and what the user wants and expects to take it out, the user emotions and feelings, different types of users, different groups of users, users all over the world, users different age, demographic. It's much more important than thinking about the exact business financials and how much runway you have and how quickly you get to profitability and break even and all of that. That is important, but not as important as the user. And more often than not, I'll see candidates focus too much on the business aspect and start to tell me what the value is to the business before thinking about what's important for the user. By the way, I have another video here talking about strategy questions and how to answer them. And there I tell you the right way to deal with these business situations, how to present it in the right way. The fifth common mistake is starting from solutions instead of problems. Starting from engineering instead of thinking through what you're trying to address. Starting from, we've got this awesome product, who can we help with this? Which problems can we solve with this? That's not the right way to think about it. And again, probably at top tech more so than at other companies, but even in startups and smaller companies, as a product manager, you don't want to build cool, shiny stuff. You want to solve people's problems. And so try to stay laser focused on that. What is the actual problem? Whose problem is it? Who are these users? What is their life like? What is their environment like? What is the use case? How do they go about solving the problem now? How could you solve it better? All of those aspects. Now, sometimes you might get questions like that. You've got a VR platform. Who can you help with this? And in those cases, of course, answer the question, although I would still recommend you to always ask that first question is, well, why do we have this actually? What were we thinking? What's our mission? What's our vision? How did we end up with this product without a problem to solve? If you say that even for a few seconds, for a few moments, it's going to be very important because it's going to give the right signal to the interviewer that you are not just thinking about the question that was presented to you. You're trying to think about it holistically from the user's point of view, from a problem point of view, from what you could possibly do with this product. And the fifth mistake that I see happen all the time, it's an inability to move across slices, across views. Moving from 50,000 foot view below 40, 30, 20,000, 10,000 foot runway takeoff. It's basically seeing the world, the situation, the user, the problem in different levels. So when you're thinking about answering any questions, whether it's strategic, product design, behavioral, really any questions, try to look at it from multiple levels. A lot of the times people will choose a particular perspective, a level. Let's say they're talking about a particular feature of a product. They're going to say, okay, here's this feature. I'm going to talk about the feature. It can be improved like this. It can be done like that. And then they don't move off of this level too much. They don't go up and say, why is this feature around? What does the product actually do? What is the mission, the vision of the product or the company even? They don't second guess too much the user motivations, user thought, and their journey. And they also don't go deeper in to understand, okay, what is the actual user experience of that feature like? What are the ramifications of using this feature versus not using this feature? When you're thinking about business objectives, you might be thinking, okay, we've got this goal, and then you just zoom in on that goal and you talk about it in detail, as opposed to talking, okay, you've talked about the goal, but you can also talk about the high level, again, mission or vision of the company, and you can go lower in and talk about how you can actually hyper optimize certain aspects of that goal. So whenever you're answering anything, you can be speaking at a variety of levels. As a product manager, as a successful candidate, you need to be able to talk in detail and in specificity about all of those levels and not spend too much time on each level unless that is what's required of you. Most of the time, it's this inability to zoom out and zoom back in. Zoom out on the entire picture, why are we doing any of this? And then zoom back in on the smallest user interface detail. Develop an ability to zoom in and zoom out as needed as you're answering questions to be able to answer it fully and in the best possible way. If you like this video, make sure to gently tap the like button. And if you want to learn more about product management, startups, finance, and how to get into the top tech companies, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time.